All right, AJ, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I've been on the edge of my seat ever since we last left off on Gravity Falls with everything going bad and the arrival of Bill Cipher. I made very many Avengers Infinity War references in that episode, so now I'm finally happy that we've reached the end game.
Season finale. It's been a long road.
It's been a very, very long road.
It took us 5 years. It has
5 years to cover the span of what is half a summer in this show? Like,
Yeah.
are we halfway through the summer?
Just about. So the original show ran for about 3.5 years. That was 2 seasons over about 4 years. That's kind of unusual, but we are beating that record.
Yeah, we are better than Gravity Falls at keeping you suspended in traumatic wait.
Yeah,
Is better really the right word?
Welcome to Into the Falls, a Gravity Falls podcast. I'm Mary, and I know lots of things.
I'm AJ, and I know nothing.
This is a podcast where I guide AJ through the wonderful weirdness of Gravity Falls, my favorite show that he has never seen.
If you're a new arrival like me, or looking to relive some crazy summer memories, come with us, and let's dive into the falls.
You guys just heard him.
Hi, Rob Renzetti.
Oh, hello.
Hi, Bobby Renzetti. We have the real Bobby Renzetti with us here today. It's an honor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I loaned him his name. That was a session where we were going a little bit goofy in the editing bay, which we often did because we sat in there for many hours on many episodes. And at one point, Mike Randa and Alex got a little bit goofy and started trying to riff on my name and do various versions of my name. And Bobby Renzetti was the favorite, and hence Bobby Renzetti was born.
If any listeners don't know, Rob Renzetti, you were a supervising producer on Gravity Falls.
Indeed.
And from listening to the commentaries on the Blu-ray, it kind of sounded like you were the adult supervision kind of reining everybody in. On the production.
Well, technically, we were all adults. I was just a much older adult. You know, I kind of had been around for a generation almost before I joined Gravity Falls. Disney had this habit of giving shows to anybody that they see a piece of artwork and they'd be like, oh, he's an illustrator who's never worked in animation, but let's give him a show or at least do a pilot with him. And we'll find some industry veteran who knows what they're doing, and we'll pair them up. So Disney kind of had this history of doing that kind of thing. And I've said this before, but I won't go too far into this. But basically, they were trying to do the same thing with Alex and me, except Alex didn't need that. Alex was actually in animation straight out of school, almost. But he was he went to CalArts, he knew animation, he knew how to make a show. And he did an amazing pilot before I ever showed up on the scene. But they still wanted that whole, let's put an industry veteran in there who knows the ropes of things and knows how to do production. So I kind of served that purpose. But what I didn't do, what I didn't want to happen and what didn't happen on Gravity Falls is I didn't want to become the creative force behind the show while somebody else got credit. Because there were a few shows that made it to air where the creator really didn't do too much, and it's really the people that are further down on the credit list who are actually making the show, but not taking all the headaches on of a creator of an animated show without getting the credit for it. I wasn't interested in that because I already had my own show. I created a show called My Life as a Teenage Robot for Nickelodeon, and I had both the credit and the headaches. And what I didn't want to do is just take on the headaches and did not get the credit. But when I met Alex and we had a couple of introductory meetings in various forms, and I got to know him, I'm like, this guy knows what he's doing. And he knows how to run his own show. I'll just be there to help him out. There's things that I've experienced in the past that he hasn't come up against. I can help with that kind of stuff, which is the purpose I ended up serving. And also, I've just vibed with him and the other younger creators on the show in terms of taste and in terms of the kind of stuff we like to do and the kind of storytelling we like to do. And luckily he thought I was a good creative contribution as well as just being like there for practical reasons. So it all worked out. It was great. It was a great experience. He got most of the headaches. I had a few headaches, but I didn't have the kind of headaches that a creator has. I put in a lot of hours on Gravity Falls. I probably worked harder on it than anything besides my own show in terms of the extra hours we all put in on the show because there was a lot of passion behind it. And Alex basically lived at the studio for many, many months. It was his whole life. It swallowed his life, which it does when you create your own show. It inevitably does, but maybe more so with him than anybody else I've ever seen before. So I came in and was kind of that like older adult in the room. Had gone through everything before. I think mostly, and I think Alex has told me this in the past, I think one of the things I did for him was no matter how crazy everything got and how much he might be freaking out or how much everybody else might be freaking out, like I didn't freak out, at least not in front of him. I just like was always calm and even and steady because I had gone through this stuff before and seen this kind of stuff. I was his barometer, basically. Like if it looked like everything was falling apart from his perspective, but he looked over at me and I was still like calm and like, okay, we'll figure it out. We'll talk it through. We'll do whatever we need to do. That helped him. That helped him. And I think it helped the other people on the crew look at me and go like, okay, Renzetti's not freaking out, so it can't be that bad.
Yeah.
At least it's not the worst thing he's ever seen. That was another service I provided as part of the crew, was kind of like the steady Eddie who didn't get upset about whatever the latest headache of the day was.
There's a lot of value in that, in having somebody like that in a show, because I'm sure there's a lot of different things that go into an animated show, and like if one of those cogs like sort of gets out of whack or something, I guess sort of like a car engine, it like could potentially screw up a whole bunch of other things down the line. So hearing that you were very much like that sort of Zen Jedi master almost on the show.
Guiding light, North Star.
I tried, at least I faked it well. The thing is like nothing prepares you for running your own show, because you can see, like when I've worked on many, many shows. One of the biggest shows I worked on almost straight out of school was Dexter's Lab, when my good friend Gendy Tartakovsky created. And I was there, Craig McCracken was there, Paul Rush was there. We were like kind of the core of that group. And I did a lot on that show and contributed a lot. But I was not the creator of the show. And you can be close to a creator of the show and think you know how it's going to go to be your own creator. Like there were many times, and I tell this story now because I've learned differently, but like there were many times where I saw Gendy like doing something that I was like, I could do it better. You know what I mean? Like not creatively, but like handling the job in the way where it's like, when I have my own show, I'll handle that better. And then you get your own show and you're like, oh, I'm not handling it better. I'm probably handling it worse. I'm doing a worse job than Gendy. Oh man, I'm really not. I was very naive back then, and the same thing happened with me in that when I finally got my show and I was underwater, I had a friend of mine come in and do a storyboard for it, and he subsequently got his own show. And after he got his own show, and he got his own show at Nickelodeon, so we were both doing our shows at Nickelodeon at the same time. I just saw him in the hall once he'd been into a show for like, I don't know, a couple months or something. And I saw him walk up to me, and he had this haunted look on his face and this wide-eyed, and he's like, I had no idea what it was like. I'm like, yeah, you're into it now, right? You looked at me and thought like, what's going on? Why is he having such a hard time? Like now you know, now you know what it's like. So like going through that and being a veteran of that kind of relatively small group of individuals, that helps you relate to somebody who's going through it at the time. So that's like, again, when Hirsch was going through it, I was like, I've been through this. I know what it is, and I understand, and I will help you in whatever way I can. But much of this is like, you just have to be thrown into the pool and learn to swim on your own. I won't let you drown, but you are going to have to like panic a little bit on a daily basis, and I will minimize the panic, but you will have to go through it anyways, regardless.
I almost feel like you mentioning all those great people, Gendy Tartakovsky, Paul Rudish, it almost feels like, to me, that generation of cable cartoons rising up, it almost feels like there was something special in the air. Do you think you were a part of something special around that time, or were y'all just young kids trying to figure things out with that?
I mean, both. I mean, at that time, we knew there had been this kind of moribund time in animation, which was kind of in the 70s and 80s, where creator-driven stuff wasn't really happening. And we were part of the first generation that like got the opportunity. There's kind of a proto-generation, right? There's the first set of Nickelodeon shows, which is Rocko's Modern Life, Doug, and Ren and Stimpy, right? Those three came out. And those were like kind of the first hint of those creator-driven things. But John Kricfalusi was a huge influence on us before we knew all the stuff in his personal life that creeped us all out. But we loved Ren and Stimpy. When we saw Ren and Stimpy come out on the air, we loved it. And that's what we wanted to do. And because of those shows, especially Ren and Stimpy, but because of those shows, those three shows, we knew it was a possibility. But at the time, there wasn't really a venue set up for that. And what happened was when we showed up at Hanna-Barbera, all of us worked on a show called Two Stupid Dogs. And we worked on that show. And while that show was working on, Fred Cyber was thinking about like what his next project was going to be. John Kricfalusi was advising him, and John Kricfalusi was saying basically, you have to do a shorts program. You have to like let a bunch of people get the opportunity to do shorts. You'll get a bunch of pilots, and you'll find new creators that way. So we were kind of just there at the right time, ground zero, for like when What a Cartoon came along, for like Gendy to do a pilot of Dexter and then do another pilot of Dexter, Craig doing the Powerpuff Girls pilots. I did a pilot called Mina and the Count, which I hoped to be my series, which I was never able to do that. But we were all there at the right time to like take advantage of that opportunity. And we were kind of there at the rebirth of creative, almost at the rebirth of the creator-driven cartoons. So the timing was good. And we were all fresh out of school. We'd all been at CalArts together. We had this opportunity. We knew we had this opportunity. We didn't know what it would turn out to be, but we were going to take as much advantage of it as we could. And Dexter was the first chance that we got to, as that unit, kind of create something. And then when I got to Gravity Falls, it was basically the same thing for their generation. A lot of people that Alex hired had been at CalArts with him at the same time, or within range of a couple of years. They were all going through CalArts at the same time. Ian Worrell, the art director on Gravity Falls, was a big fan, a big friend of Alex's at CalArts, and everybody was like, worshipped Ian, and for good reason, because he's amazing. But like I saw the same thing happening, which is a fresh bunch of people out of school. They don't know what they're not allowed not to do. They're just going to do what they think is right and best, and which makes for an awesome cartoon. And usually, if there's enough leeway given, they do make an awesome cartoon, because they've got the energy and they've got the talent and they've got the taste to make something good. Yeah. And so, the kind of like-minded people kind of all gravitate into these little groups that happen. And we had that on Dexter's and the shows that followed. And these guys had this on Gravity Falls. And of course, Matt Brawley was a part of that. Dana Terrace was a part of it. They both ended up having their own shows after that. You know what I mean? So like it usually becomes very fruitful. And if you're smart enough as a corporation, a business to take advantage of that, it's good for everybody.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I definitely ask that because Gravity Falls, I've noticed, definitely feels like one generation sort of leading into the next of cable cartoons. Because you had all these great shows like Dexter's, like Ed, Edd n Eddy, like Powerpuff Girls, sort of paving the way and sort of establishing the norm for the late 90s and the 2000s. And then you sort of get into Gravity Falls, and then that sort of paves the way for all the stuff like DuckTales, like The Owl House, like Steven Universe. And that just sort of becomes the new thing to do, the new trendsetter, the new guiding light for everybody moving forward in cartoons. Hearing all of that is it's just amazing what what has influenced and what will influence in this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, one of the main reasons I wanted to work on Gravity Falls was, well, I saw the pilot and I knew it was fantastic and funny, and that it was going to be a really funny show. And also all the horror aspect of it, the cryptids and all the weird stuff. I'm a huge fan of that stuff. But the idea of we were going to do a larger story, because that was not something that was, when we were, like, again, going back to Dexter's and that, when we were starting out, every cartoon had to be standalone. And when I got my own show, My Life as a Teenage Robot, same restriction, like supposed to be a standalone. I got to do a little bit of continuity around the edges of things, but so little. So it was just frowned upon. And then Gravity Falls was kind of like, came along at this point where the execs were suddenly open to that idea because of like there'd been all this influx of anime shows that had done well, which obviously you usually, there's these bigger stories that are told in anime that like wasn't allowed in Western cartoons. But at that point, like they'd had enough data, like seeing that those shows are popular. It's like, okay, maybe we can do this. So that was one of the reasons, the main reason I wanted to work on Gravity Falls was to be able to tell these bigger stories, which we are now currently torturing AJ with because he doesn't know all the chapters of that story.
You mentioned Powerpuff Girls a couple of times. Obviously, you didn't have as big a role on that show, but the fact that you worked on it in any capacity, to me, makes you royalty.
Oh, thank you. Well, then refer to me, please, as Your Highness. Your
Highness.
Your Highness.
My Highness? What, did I sit in something?
Yeah, I grew up in a house of 3 girls, so we loved Powerpuff Girls. We each had our...
Yeah, who were you?
I was about to say that. We each had our Powerpuff Girl that we identified the most with. Mine was Bubbles. My older sister, I imagine, would be Blossom, and then my younger sister would be Buttercup because just personality-wise, they really aligned. I remember when I was really little, when I would watch cartoons, and if somebody asked me who my favorite character was, I would just pick out the token girl. Didn't matter. I didn't stop to think about like who I related to or like who was the funniest. It was just like the girl. Powerpuff Girls is one of the first ones where I remember like, oh, I have more than one option.
Yeah.
I can
cool,
actually like think about it beyond those terms. Yeah, and then I watched for the first time in probably 20 years, My Life as a Teenage Robot. And it kind of sank in that like, oh, this is it's a male creator, but it's a female protagonist. And the role of like the mad scientist is a female character as well, which you don't really see a lot. Stuff like that in Kim Possible, it kind of makes me, in Powerpuff Girls, makes me wonder like, was there just like a sympathy for what young girls kind of have to go through? And that's what kind of made them more compelling in these like superhero stories, kind of the contrast between like having to navigate the world as a young girl and also having these powers or having these abilities.
Speaking for myself, I just always found female characters interesting because they are allowed to be vulnerable in a way that male characters maybe aren't in the shorthand of cartoons, but you pair that with them, what we normally think of as more male traits, and I don't necessarily buy into the idea that there's intrinsically male versus female traits in humans. I tend to think that that's mostly socially constructed. So yeah, I think a female superhero is just more interesting intrinsically because of the ideal, because your audience is going to allow them to be more vulnerable, but you can add in the kick-ass parts of a superhero. Powerpuff obviously was an influence on Teenage Robot in that you're right. I didn't work on Powerpuff too much because I went off to do my own stuff. I was trying to make me an accountant news series while Powerpuff was kind of happening. And then that didn't happen, but Teenage Robot did. But I was there while he was doing the student film, and I came up with a few core things. Like I came up with the idea that Mojo Jojo was created by the same explosion that created the Powerpuff Girls. And I was actually the original voice of Mojo Jojo in the never created student film that featured Mojo Jojo. I was also the voice
so I
of
assume you were also the original voice of Ghostface in Scream.
That would be amazing if I were, right?
Dubbed you over with that.
I was the original voice of Dexter in the student film of Dexter's Laboratory as well, because I was there.
Right.
Not because I had any talent.
Did you have like a Dexter voice? Did you like do the accent?
We did. I did a weird accent, but it wasn't nearly as good as what Kristen Kavanaugh came up with in the show. But yeah, no.
For us, do you remember it?
Oh my God! I mean, it's just me talking like Dexter, but badly. It's like, you are so stupid. That's kind of the idea.
That's not bad.
But when I got Teenage Robot, like I didn't want to ape the Powerpuff Girls, so the concept was there in the pilot. But the idea was that like the Powerpuff Girls are very much love being superheroes and are into it. Like it's their core identity that they're superheroes. I wanted Jenny to be a reluctant superhero. Like she's a superhero, but she doesn't want to do it. She wants to be a normal teenage girl, right? Because I want to set up this dichotomy. Again, she's a teenager and the Powerpuff Girls are little girls. So at that point, she's like figuring out how she fits in with the world. How does she fit in with the other teens around her? And the answer is you don't fit in. You're never going to fit in because you're a robot and they aren't. So the struggle for Jenny in the series is basically coming to terms with who she is, what she is, and being okay with that and learning self-love, basically learning how to love herself or what's awesome about her, because there's so much that's awesome about her, but she couldn't see it necessarily. So all that I think is just more interesting as a female. Not that men can't be vulnerable and stuff, but like our culture gives a woman a lot more room to be vulnerable than a male character. even to this day,
Yeah.
right? To me, that makes for a more interesting, compelling character, because ideally when you're creating a show, you want characters to be in conflict. You want characters to be in conflict with each other, because that creates stories based on their different personalities. But a character that's in conflict with himself, that's just even better, because nobody else needs to be on screen for Jenny to get in trouble. Like, she can just get in trouble spinning her own wheels because she's not happy with who she is, and she's butting heads with herself all the time. So all that was part of the equation of why I wanted to do a series with a female protagonist.
It's been very insightful hearing sort of your background and what you ended up bringing to Gravity Falls. I think it's very valuable to hear and helps add to the context that I now bring into to the show. And it's been really enjoyable just sort of gaining that knowledge and sort of bringing that into the episodes that we see. I think we're ready for Gideon Rises.
All right.
I'm trying to find something to top the holy shit that I did last episode, and I unfortunately cannot.
No, neither can we.
Wow. Like, that was incredible. Like, that had it all. The callbacks, the action scenes, the heartfelt stuff with Dipper and Mabel, and finally, the vending machine.
We're paying a lot of stuff off in this episode. Not even just the vending machine, but the grappling hook as well. We haven't seen that since episode 1.
I'll defeat Gideon with my grappling hook!
Mabel, no offense, but that grappling hook has literally never helped us once.
We haven't. I kind of even forgotten it. It was a thing.
When this aired for the first time, I had forgotten that. Because like the grappling hook scene was popular as like a meme, basically, as like a funny scene, but then we didn't really think about like, oh, she hasn't actually used it the entire season. I said before we watched it that I remember very vividly kind of like where I was and what headspace I was in. I was 15. During that summer, I was in a community theater production of Bye Bye Birdie. I was a Conrad Birdie girl. And so I didn't have, there were a lot of points during rehearsal where I wouldn't be needed. I was just kind of hanging out like on my iPad in the choir room. It was like at a high school. And then I had forgotten when the episode was going to air. This would never happen again. I would never miss an air day again. But then I saw like a very minor spoiler on Tumblr. I'm like, oh my God, that's right, it's out. And so I found a Google Drive link. I'm revealing my criminal history here. I didn't watch it through an official channel at the time. So that's how I was able to watch it on my iPad. And then, it just blew me away. And I watched it like 8 more times. I was watching it like 5 times a day, and there are other episodes that I did that with as well that are coming up. And
yeah, I feel like this episode, more than any others, definitely rewarded those that not only watched the episodes as they came out first run, but probably also during reruns as well, that were just going back and watching episodes over and over and over again so that they could pick up on stuff like the grappling hook and To Be Determined and all these little gags that they peppered through. It's like they threw every best bit of Gravity Falls season 1 into like a blender and just blended it up, and we were like, here you go, here's your finale.
Well, I'm glad that's a reaction. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I want to know if there's like anything you recall about like the making of this episode in particular. Like, I'm sure you guys were aware of the fandom and like the popularity of the show at this point. Did that sort of add any sort of pressure into making this really satisfying and to really pay off a whole bunch of stuff? Like, was that in y'all's intention?
I think we always felt that pressure. I am old school in that I don't look at fan reaction. I barely touched on that kind of stuff. Hirsch, all over it, very much involved in it, very much reacting to it. Because I remember at the time while we were making the show, he'd reference what the fans thought of certain things. But I didn't do that. But I know he did. I know Mike Randa did. I know they like dived into that stuff, perhaps to an unhealthy extent. Because I feel like I don't want it to color what I'm going to come up with in terms of like my storytelling. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to necessarily be like, well, this is really popular, and therefore when you're making a show, it's hard because you hopefully like what you're doing and you're a fan of what you're doing yourself. On one level, you're a fan of the show you're helping create, right? And I was definitely a fan of Gravity Falls. But on the other level, you're like, you're creating it. So you kind of have to have more objective feelings towards it. And, you know, the North Star is really always the characters, right? It's always about what the characters are thinking, their relationships and stuff. As long as you get that right, jokes can come or jokes can go. And it's like, if you like the joke, oh, well, it's too bad we had to lose that joke, but it's a joke. You know what I mean? That's the character stuff. And of course, everybody loves the jokes, right? And that's why you watch the show for the jokes. But jokes are a dime a dozen. Characters are precious. So you never want to do anything that would violate who the characters are. So that's always our main focus. And who cares if the fans like Toby Determined or hate Toby Determined or whatever? We use Toby Determined when we want, and we'll ignore them when we don't. If they hate Mabel or Dipper, then that's a problem. Then we're in trouble. But if they love our main characters and they love the characters that are central to the show, then we know we're on the right track. So I didn't look into that stuff, but definitely Hirsch and Brianda did. But like, yeah, when we were coming up with this episode, I'm kind of always there in the story meetings and helping come up with the broad strokes of the episodes. And then like they go away and get written, and I don't see those drafts necessarily till it's somewhere towards being close to being done. And then it comes back to me again. So I'm kind of got a little bit fresh eyes of like how the story came together. And I can go like, well, I didn't really think it was going to play that way. Or, oh, this really worked out. There was a lot of angst about this episode and what we do. There's a couple of things that we like are kind of cheating. You know, the biggest thing being on a character level, and the guys talked about this on the DVD as well, which is basically like Dipper's not his character story here is BS. Like there's plenty of times in season 1 where he doesn't use the journal and is a hero without the journal. That's not what Gideon's saying isn't true, but the way we justified it was Dipper is so insecure about himself that he would buy into that criticism of himself, that he does need the journal because the journal is so central to what he's really how he thinks about himself, you know, and certainly how he thinks about this summer. Like he is obsessed with the journal, and even though it doesn't come into play in all the episodes we did in season 1, and he does plenty of stuff that's heroic that has nothing to do with the journal, he's still so obsessed that he can buy into the idea that he's nothing without the journal. And has to overcome that.
Well, finding the journal was very validating for him in episode 1 because he was noticing these things that nobody around him seemed to notice. And then he finds this book that's saying, like, this is all real. This is what's going on in this town. And, like, I don't know why, but it's happening. There are gnomes, there are vampires, there are zombies, there's all this stuff. So it kind of, in a roundabout way, kind of makes it seem like, you know, nobody's taking him seriously right now, but somebody could. Take him seriously because this book is a very mysterious, important seeming thing. Yeah. And he and Gideon have very impressive, I don't know what the size of those pockets are that they can just keep the journals like on their person at all times and nobody notices this big like
pockets that exist only in cartoons.
Yeah, we love the magic bag of holding and its infinite power.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of magic bags. In fact, here, I'll show you. Not that this will show.
You wrote a book about one.
Well, I did. The Horrible Bag, which was influenced by Felix's Magic Bag of Tricks. This is an old 60s versions of Felix, which played when I was a kid on local television. He had this magic bag, and he could pull anything out of this magic bag, or this magic bag could transform into anything. It would turn into vehicles when he needed a car to drive, or if he needed something, he'd grab something out of his magic bag. So yeah, cartoon magic has certainly got a long history, and certainly, of course, the one time the pocket doesn't successfully hide Journal 3 is when, you know, the one time Dipper really needs it to be hid from Gideon, it just instantly falls out. Instantly falls out of his vest.
To his credit, the onslaught of gnomes, I'm sure, was very, very powerful and very, very unexpected.
He's getting a lot of tussling there.
Like, it didn't take much, really, for those gnomes to sort of turn on Dipper and Mabel.
No, you can't rely on them. They're not a reliable ally.
You can't trust them. They're a bunch of perverts. They're trying to marry a 12-year-old girl.
Well, more disturbing than that is this whatever's going on with their interaction with squirrels, whatever that relationship
I'm
is.
concerned for those squirrels. Somebody free those squirrels. The only explanation I can think of for them wanting to marry Mabel is that, like, they're so tiny that they don't understand human aging. They think that everybody who's not a baby must be an adult.
Yeah, gnomes probably come of age in, like, 2 or 3 human years. So it's like
not unlike mermen.
Oh, yes, not unlike mermen.
Their voices change when they're like 3.
That was another really, really funny episode, and one that really featured like this comical side of Gideon and Stan's rivalry. So to see it really beef up in these last couple of episodes was very interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, one thing about Gideon was we weren't quite sure how big in the series he was going to be. There was a lot of talk about him being, well, I don't want to blow anything. There's a lot of talk, you don't know what he's going to be doing in season 2, so I can't tell you. But like, there was a lot of debate about how to play out that Gideon thing. And I think we came up with the best version of it, which is like, it kind of comes to fruition in this season, and he gets to come up. We don't know how he's going to come back or how he's going to exact any kind of revenge he may have planned. You'll see. Yeah. You'll see as we continue forward here. But figuring out exactly what the steps are and how he was going to up his game. Like, there was a lot of debate in the writer's room throughout season 1 about that.
I'm not sure if you went back and heard any others, but my opinion of Gideon as a character and his behavior has not been very, very high, but it has been interesting to me to see it kind of turn around a little bit with how y'all did these last 2 episodes, and to really sort of see him come into his own as like the kind of villain that I think really set season 1 on a satisfying note to end on. That was very, very cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times there's certain things like the vending machine, like you come up with it, but then you're like, there's only A, B, and C to that. And we've got so many episodes that we can't necessarily linger there because there's not a lot to do with it. So without spoiling what's going to happen in season 2, I will say the biggest change in the concept of this episode was the ending and how far we took the ending. The earlier versions of the story ended sooner with less being revealed. And the board artists were never satisfied with that. And specifically, the board artist who boarded that section, Alonso Ramos Ramirez, he took it further than we initially thought it was going to be. But once we all saw what he did, there was no turning back. And it caused a lot of trouble with us for season 2 because, again, like, there's more, obviously there's more to be revealed, but like, we're revealing more here than we had planned in terms of how we were going to spoon it all out. So we had to, like, there's going to be a little tap dancing in season 2. I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying that, but you won't have to wait as long to go down to that room again as you did this season, but there will be, there's certain things that are going to happen that you have to wait a little while for them to happen. So, but I'll be curious to see as you go forward what you think of how we spoon feed you in season 2.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see that stuff. And
well, you can watch it right away, unlike Mary and all the other people watching the show live.
Oh yeah. AJ, do you want to guess how long it was between the end of season 1 and the beginning of season 2?
Oh boy. So what was it? 2 months? 3 months was the longest break between episodes in this season? Would you say that's accurate? Or
Probably.
Between batches?
I don't remember exactly how long they all were.
Probably.
I'm kind of inclined to say 6 months, maybe 3/4 of a year is the max. Oh boy. Nope. I vastly underestimated how much pain you guys went through, haven't I?
Let me look up the exact air date of this one.
I don't remember.
Because this was basically a year almost to the date of the first episode premiering. Is that right?
A little over a year. This aired on August 2nd, 2013.
Okay.
The season 2 premiere came out on August 1st, 2014.
So y'all literally had to wait a year.
364 days, yes.
Shit.
You might have waited forever because there was a point where Hirsch was like not sure he wanted to do a second season.
Really?
So it might have just ended with this.
We never would have recovered.
A whole generation would have gone down in flames.
Who knows? We might not have gotten like the Owl House or the DuckTales revival or any of that. So thank you, Alex, for persevering on that.
I think what happened in really the fans are to thank for a lot of that, because when he saw the reaction to the fans, because he was so invested in that whole community and checking in on it, he saw how much love there was for the show, and especially after we left you guys on this cliffhanger. The need and the demand and the love for the show is really what brought him back to do a second season. Also, he just needed a little time off.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Time to recover. Normally what would happen, and they wanted to pick up a second season months before we started. I mean, probably half a year before we started on it. But he was just so overwhelmed with season 1, he couldn't conceive of starting a season 2. But that was unusual. That's what you do as a show creator of a successful show. You're hoping that they're going to say, we want more while you're still making season 1, because that way you get to keep everybody. You get to keep your writers, because they'll start writing season 2. Then what they'll do is they'll stagger pickups. Like if you're doing well enough, they'll be like, we're going to allow you to write some more episodes. Doesn't mean you're going to get a second season, but if you're doing well enough and things are looking bright enough, they'll be like, we will keep the writers around. We know you don't want to lose your writers, and we'll let you start writing some more episodes. And then at some point, that takes a few months, and you're a few months further along, and then other people are going to be rolling off, and if they like what the new writing looks like, they may let you okay, you can start boarding or whatever. You can start, and at one point you'll get like an official season pickup. And that's what you normally hope for. But on the show, that was Alex's nightmare. He was just overwhelmed with doing one season. He couldn't imagine starting the storylines on the new season, because he ended up, we had writers, but he always did the final version of the script, and very, very intensely was written. This was very intensely finally written by Alex Hirsch. It was just too much for him to take on. And like I said, he wasn't even sure he wanted to do a season 2. So you didn't get that kind of built-in head start with this show. We just we broke entirely. We lost people, and we got some of them back, but not everybody. But he just needed it. And by the time he took a break and we were ready to roll into season 2, he was, he had enough juice and was committed to it in a way that. But then partly also, originally he was thinking, I think, 3 seasons, but he didn't think he had enough story to tell the big story. I mean, to right. Make another 40 episodes. That was just too much. He's like, a season 2, that's going to be it. We're just going to do a second season, and we'll be able to wrap it up. And he was right. And it worked out. But that huge gap, the show, the audience had to wait, which, I'm sure nobody was happy about.
Yeah. Mary, I want you to sort of elaborate, how exactly did y'all occupy your time? Was it all just spent, finding the nearest vending machine you could and just staring at it?
I mean, I can't speak for everybody. I'm sure some people were doing that. Well, we've referenced a couple times that there were shorts in between season 1 and season 2. So those were kind of scattered throughout.
And those were designed specifically to say we're not gone, we're coming back, and
bridge that gap.
We're sorry. Here's a little treat in the meantime. We're sorry.
It was kind of funny.
Back.
It was kind of funny to me finding out that Alex Hirsch at first wasn't sure about a season 2, because when this episode first aired, this is not in the Disney Plus version or on the Blu-ray, but when it first aired, Grunkle Stan's voice was over the credits saying,
"Gravity Falls will return."
Yes.
And so we all saw that, we're like, okay, why'd you feel the need to tell us that?
Well, by the time that we were in post on this show, we knew that there was going to be a season 2. But that's the production time on any individual episode is super, super long. The time before, you write it, then it gets storyboarded, and you do all this pre-production stuff. Then it goes overseas to be animated. Then it comes back. You edit the footage. In our case, Alex would sometimes redo gags and redo bits. He found out we could alter mouth shapes because of the editing software we were using. So he could have a character say something different. So he was constantly changing stuff way beyond where you normally would on a television production. For kids, in primetime, they do that a lot. In primetime, because I worked on Family Guy very briefly, but I was shocked to find this out. But on primetime, they'll see something come back from overseas, and they have a budget to actually, we don't want that scene anymore. We're going to put in a different scene. And they send a new scene to be animated and change it out. But even in primetime, when you get we'd be changing lines while we were doing the final mix. We'd be at the mixing studio. So we'd go upstairs, he'd get in the booth, and I'd listen and direct him. He'd come up with I want the line to be different, and we kind of brainstorm about stuff, and he'd usually come up with okay, this is what we'll do. And then he'd do it, and I'd be like, you got to go faster. Or I'd give him direction and stuff. And then we would put that in, we'd go back down and put that into the mix of the show. And that line had been created 5 minutes ago. A lot of times it'd be, there's no lip sync, so we're cool. But if a character were speaking it, we could go in. They had a unit that did digital After Effects and stuff. Because mouth shapes are just there's a limited number of mouth shapes, so you could just move them around and switch them out. So
really, really interesting to me. Was it sort of important to the process and sort of the mindset of creating this show to you guys that nothing even at that stage in the production, was precious.
Well, it's important to Alex. he was always pushing to improve the show, and like from a production standpoint, that's always a headache. You want to get the show locked, meaning like everything's set up and go and just go. At a certain point in the production, you're like, it's not about creative stuff; it's just about execution. But he was always like, now that I'm seeing this, it's months later, went overseas. Now I'm seeing this. This just doesn't work, and you couldn't tell him, well, too bad, it's done. Like, because he knew we had the tools to fix it, he just would insist on fixing it. And after a while, you know, I didn't object anymore because normally he was right. Like, yeah, that's better. Like, if he was making random changes and I didn't see that they improved anything, I might have spoken up and say, like, this doesn't make a difference. And there were times on the show when I would say that. But when I saw that it was like, yeah, that's better. You made it better. Like, to me, the creative was the most important thing as well. Like, and you know, so we just would do it. We would just change it. It was very much more of a prime time mindset, which was like, you change things until it's literally on the air, until it's out of your hands, and you don't have control of it anymore. If you think something's just not working, you're going to change it. It's not like he was changing half the dialogue in the show, but we might change 2 or 3 lines in an episode at the mix. You know, not always, and not every episode, but there were episodes where it's like, I just never could get that right. I'm not sure what it is, and we'd talk about it. Usually it was just me and him at the mixes. Sometimes Randa would come, at least on season 1, but sometimes it would just be the two of us, and we would be like, okay, well, let's take a break. Let's take a 5-10 minute break and think about this and talk about it. And then we would go up and come up with something.
I wanted to sort of talk about the beginning of the episode, the whole "it's all a dream" angle. But then it turns out, oh, it's not a dream. They are actually in Soos's Nana's house.
I just had a horrible dream that Gideon stole the deed to the mystery shack and kicked us out, and we all had to move in with Soos's grandma.
That was no dream, dude.
Hiding out while Gideon's doing whatever he's doing to the mystery shack at that point.
Well, it's not his Nana, it's his abuelita, because we have learned for the first time that Soos is short for Jesus. And again, like when we found out that Dipper was not his real name, I mentioned up until that point, I had thought that Dipper was just his name. He just had a weird name. And so up until this episode aired, I thought Soos was just a name. I thought his name just was Soos, and that's a name that people can have in this world. It did not occur to me that it was short for anything. It did not occur to me that he was like, I thought he was white until this episode. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I mean, if Toby can have the last name determined, I mean, it's kind of plausible that Soos could just be Soos, and that's what's on his birth certificate.
Like,
oh yeah,
I don't remember all the details of this, but Jesus is based on, again, a friend of Alex's from Cal Arts, so he's based on a real life human. I don't think that Jesus, the real Jesus, went by Soos, but maybe I'm wrong about that. But I feel like we explored the idea of just calling him Jesus, and that was problematic for Disney because, like, obviously Jesus is the Spanish equivalent of Jesus. They felt like that would be, people would object to that, which probably I don't think they would, but like all it takes is one person to object to something, and it's crazy how timid these huge multinational corporations can be in certain areas, and that was one of them. So the debate, calling him something else versus calling him like Soos, that like, how are you going to spell Soos? Is it going to be S-U-S? No, we're going to change it. So there was a lot of like early debate about what exactly are we going to call this character.
I definitely loved seeing the Soos lore that we gained here, because, you know, seeing him throughout the rest of the season, he's just like this amiable, happy-go-lucky guy. He's there a lot of the times, but you don't know much about him except for how he acts with Dipper and Mabel. He's like their surrogate older brother. You forget he only just works at the Mystery Shack, that he's got this whole other life and this whole other part of his family that he has to open up to everybody else when they're unceremoniously kicked out of the Mystery Shack.
Yeah, I love seeing his abuelita and where he lives, and especially, I don't know if this was in the script or not, but the idea that she loves her grandson so much that like she's got all these glory pictures of him at various ages everywhere, you know, like they don't seem to have enough money to fill the fridge, but at least in the past she was spending a lot of money on like glamour photo sessions with her growing grandson.
I'm sure y'all probably didn't have a specific Latin nationality in mind for Soos and his abuelita, but it's kind of universal because she definitely reminded me of my Nana in a lot of ways. And so seeing that and hearing that is like, yeah, it's pretty cool to find out about.
Oh, I think they're Mexican, aren't they?
I think so. Alonso would know. Alonso Ramirez, again, has Spanish origins, and obviously, I think he had like very more specific like headcanon stuff about all that kind of stuff. Not much of it got into the show, but like Alonso was like a huge fan of the show and really like he had a lot of like invested like thinking about these characters on a deep level, which comes out in bits and as we progress and stuff through the series. But like the like he was kind of like an unofficial authority figure in some ways on that kind of stuff sometimes because he was such a fan of the show and had thought it through so much, and all his ideas and all the stuff that he brought to the boards and in terms of and just the ideas he brought to the show were really always on target.
Hey you! Are you sick of piles of owls constantly blocking your driveway, your street, your highway, your country? I'm the real Bobby Renzetti, here to tell you that we can no longer rely on Owl Trowel. The owls are dying at rates we never imagined. It's the trees are doing it. But we can't get rid of the trees because then there's no air. That's science. So what do? Shut up, I'll tell ya. Now from the makers of Nerd Be Gone comes Miracle Enlarge Owl-Friendly Tree Formula. 1 keg of this life-saving anti-pesticide is enough to neutralize the owl venom in 1 medium-sized American smoked tree. Just attach an ordinary garden hose and drench the surrounding soil. Now those owls can perch on your branches without fear, and you can finally get little Jimmy to T-ball practice. I know what you're thinking, folks. That seems like an awful lot of pesticide for 1 tree. I can stop there, right? No, for God's sake, no, you cannot stop there. We need the owls. We need them alive. Without that, we'll be overrun with mice. And what do we get from mice? That's right, hantavirus. You want hantavirus? You want little Jimmy to get hantavirus? Your cat won't do the job. He doesn't know what's at stake. The owls are our last line of defense. Lay down your Owl Trowel, friends. Prevent those piles of owls at the source. Miracle Enlarge Owl-Friendly Tree Formula. You want antivirus?
Keep Miracle Enlarge Owl-Friendly Tree Formula away from little Jimmy. It looks, smells, and tastes like fruit punch, but is incredibly caustic. Our guest Rob Renzetti was not involved in the writing of this dumb parody ad, and we at Into the Falls are not responsible for you falling for it. I'm gonna get a cough drop. Enjoy the rest of the show, folks. I've always kind of loved the televangelist angle that you guys gave Gideon throughout the season. And so to see that really leaned into and fulfilled with Gideon Land was like one of the funniest gags to me this episode.
I mean, it definitely feels like it's the final form of that, his surface personality is, right? Like the telepathy, he's got to have bigger plans than that, right? That's just the first step.
Yeah, especially with his reputation around town and how many people love him.
There's a lot of thought and backstory, but like Bud Gleeful was just a very happy being, just like a used car salesman. And then he had this child that like went beyond anything he could imagine and like had the ambitions that are so much larger. And he's just kind of been along for the ride the whole time, kind of being the supportive parent, but not quite always necessarily having the vision that his child does for a larger empire.
Yeah, it's almost like a weird, twisted toddlers and tiaras kind of thing.
You almost feel like sometimes in those kind of shows, because I've seen the similar genre of thing, but you almost feel like those kids are being abused. I think if anybody's being abused in that family, it is probably Bud Gleeful, and definitely his mom. They like feel like they're both traumatized.
Yeah,
certainly the mom.
They're certainly on the other end.
Yeah, Gideon is definitely the abuser in that family.
Yeah,
his mom can only vacuum, and Abuelita's vacuuming a lot too, but she's doing that by choice. Also, speaking of Soos being Mexican, because I didn't realize that, I didn't catch on to that, it took me years to realize that in Double Dipper, when Pacifica calls him Jorge.
Thank you, Jorge. Thank you, everyone.
I thought that was just her picking a random name out of her brain. I thought the joke was just that it is so far off from his name. I didn't realize until years later that, like, oh, that's a microaggression that she's doing.
Oh my God. Talk about another character that's just made such a huge impression this season that we don't see back for this one is Pacifica Northwest. Like, we still see, like, Mabel's friends that were very central to that.
They're just thrown in for one scene. Like, remember, Mabel has friends. She's also leaving them behind.
It's sad, look.
Yeah, I got up to sadness. There's a lot of stuff, like, even though this episode was longer than a normal episode, there's a lot of stuff that was, like, left on the cutting room floor conceptually. I don't think anything ever got boarded with Brenda and Candy, but there probably was a scene written with them saying goodbye to Mabel.
I definitely noticed it was a longer episode, but I didn't pick up exactly how long.
I don't think it was significantly longer than
We're allowed
allowed.
allowed an extra minute, which Hirsch had to plead and beg for several times. We couldn't fit it all in, so they did give us an extra minute.
I was curious about that because it felt content-wise like a double or a 1.5 episode.
But it's also moving at a clip. Like, this went by very fast for me.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot going on between all the scenes with Soos and his abuela and the sort of heist movie that they sort of enter into with trying to gather the gnomes and trying to break into the shack the first time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely concepts here that could fill out, if not, maybe not a whole episode, at least a half an episode that we're like, we just got to move through it. And that's the reason, I think Hirsch said this in the commentary as well on this episode, which is that, like, without that extra minute, things just were moving too fast. Even as fast as they now move, they were like moving so fast that it's like you weren't feeling them at all. So much to their credit, Disney did give us a minute extra. That's because that's a minute of, advertising they're not getting.
When I say it moves fast, I did not mean that as a critique at all. To me,
I do. I mean it as a critique.
That added to the experience for me. That made it feel like, oh my God, this is all so important and I have to keep up with what's going on and I have to process everything. And that just added to the whole experience. And there's another episode down the line where I felt the same way. And it's another episode that I watched again and again and again after it came out. And this one, I don't know the last time I watched this episode. It just really took me back to watching it for the first time, where it's in my memory. I know I've seen it before. I know what happens, but it kind of feels like I'm experiencing it all over again. It's reminding me how far these relationships came from the beginning of the season to just halfway through the series with at the beginning, Stan kind of doesn't know what to do with these kids and they don't really know what to make of Stan. And now they're trying not to be separated from each other. Basically, he, is very reluctant to send them home and only does it because it's the best thing for them because he can't provide for them. And
Yeah, I want to touch on that a little bit because it was very interesting to see. Stan at the beginning of the season, he's just this goofy old guy. He's got this big tourist trap in the middle of the woods. And we don't really see him be that responsible with the kids in the beginning. But then as the season goes on and they have more adventures together, it's just sort of unlocks that sort of familial parental side for him. And he sort of grows into his responsibility where he's suddenly on the phone with Dipper and Mabel's parents, yeah, everything's going great, I think, maybe.
Well, and there's such a contrast between, in Dipper versus Manliness, when they go to the diner, Mabel's asking for pancakes, and he's like, what am I, made of money? But then now she's asking to order pizza, and he turns out his pockets, he has nothing, and he's, sad about it. Any other episode, he'd just be like, no, I'm not going to spend money on that, and wouldn't think anything of it. But now he's like, oh, I can't spend money on that, which means I can't do anything for these kids right now. It seems like he sees that as such, a personal failure, where earlier in the season, he would not have cared, or at least wouldn't show it.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are saying all the things we'd hope you would say about this when we were creating it, that, you want to slowly bring him around as a character and fill him out. I mean, being the old man on the crew, I obviously identified with old man Stan from the very beginning of my work here. But yeah, no, that he's going to be more than he's more than he seems. The way he comes around in season 1 is very satisfying. And the thing that Gravity Falls does great, and this was another mantra of Hirsch's, was this the contrast of the bizarre and unexplainable next to the mundane. And by mundane, I mean, in the best sense of the word, everyday stuff that feels real. The idea that these aren't his kids, they're here visiting him, and their parents sent them off with certain expectations that he would have a place for them to live. And now he doesn't even have, he's not even fulfilling that basic requirement of having your family visit you. They visit you somewhere. Where are these kids going to be visiting you if you don't have a house anymore? That's very real. You know what I mean? That phone conversation is very real. The kitchen is ridiculously poor. That's ridiculously over the top, where it's it feels like it's about 2 minutes again. Those cabinets, they're going to actually collapse onto the floor in another 2 minutes. And, the fridge is incredibly bare. But, the conversation on the phone feels very real and very grounded in reality. And the idea that, he's well, I'll try and figure something out. But, when he says, you guys are going home, you're both no. And you're also yeah. I get it. I understand. I don't know what else it could do for them at this point.
Something I really definitely liked about this episode is that it balances so well these heartfelt, angsty moments with all the funny gags in it that you can have Stan open the fridge and see that pitiful jug of milk and be like, oh my God, that's hilarious. And then it still hits you right in your gut when he's like, yeah, I gotta send you away back to your parents. I have nothing for you here anymore.
He's like dejected about it. Like the bus is leaving and he like can't even look. He's literally just hanging his head. And it's not even just the kids. Like he also has, for probably the first time, like a genuine moment with Soos where he's not insulting him for once when they're at the diner. He's saying like,
You're a good man, child, Soos, but it's not looking good.
you're a good man, like you're a good guy, like showing that he actually does appreciate some things about Soos. He doesn't just see him as cheap labor to be exploited. It's still a joke because he's saying you're a good man, child, but that's pretty evolved for him.
There's a lot to appreciate about Soos. I'm sure nobody appreciated him hanging around in his underwear, coughing up those couple of Fruit Loops onto his chest. But
eating them.
What do you mean? What are you saying? What are you trying to say?
I suppose you can take the good with the bad.
That's
is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, that's why you don't want to be staying over at Soos's place. You don't want.
Yeah.
You don't want to have to be forced to live with Soos. That's why Stan's like, we got to get Mr. Shack back. I cannot handle many more nights of this.
Gideon says,
We are gonna turn this dirty old shack into 3 square miles of Gideon entertainment.
does Stan own 3 square miles of land?
I don't think so. That was something we never debated, but I'm guessing that he probably would go to the mayor's office and do like a little tap dance and get the deed to the surrounding forest for a dime.
I'm sure it would be that easy for him, and then probably would just bulldoze all the surrounding trees.
I mean, there is a
Right,
question though:
natural
is he actually want to build Gideon land, or is that all just a cover story?
Is it just a
that's
front
true.
for?
Is it just a
Build
front
a
to
giant robot.
dig up the property as much as possible so that he can find Journal 1, which is what he thinks he's looking for. But he does make a giant robot, so you think he's investing some money in this concept.
It seems kind of fitting that Gideon's downfall would have been the constant surveillance of everybody in Gravity Falls.
He's a little creep, isn't he?
Oh my
Yeah,
God, such
for
a
sure.
it
In so
validates
many
like
ways.
every opinion I've ever had for him.
You're feeling what Stan and the kids are feeling. Like, they knew the whole time that Gideon is evil. He's a terrible little demon child. And the rest of the town just thinks he can do no wrong. One thing I never questioned before, how does Stan know that the video feed is going to be in that exact spot?
He doesn't.
Like,
I mean,
that metal thing open.
That was a big gamble on his part. and why did Gideon must have transferred that room from somewhere else? If he's had this room for any extended amount of time, he must have transferred it into the robot at some point or built a second room.
Just has a lot of monitors on hand.
But then you also could have been like, how did Gideon survive the nuclear explosion that his robot had impacting the middle of town?
I mean, he did have a mocap suit on. Those things are very powerful.
Yeah, he did. That was funny to see. I was like, oh, we're not living in the age of Gizmo Duck anymore.
Call me Gizmo Duck!
And Dipper and Mabel were able to survive without the mocap suit because they had the grappling hook. I don't know what it grappled onto that they were
He grappled
rolling
onto the
from,
bridge above that,
Yeah, Mabel installed the extra long 1,000-foot rope inside of it beforehand.
Hey, look, if Batman can use his grappling hook that way, so can Mabel.
She can do whatever she wants, honestly. This episode is so, I think I said this last time too, but it's so cinematic. It feels so much bigger than anything we've seen up to this point.
Yes,
because
definitely.
it is the score and the lighting and everything is kind of treating it like almost a movie. I was getting Iron Giant vibes, not just because of the giant robot, but also because of the backgrounds with all the woods and everything.
Yeah, we even got the animated movie shadow shading with Dipper and Mabel in the woods.
Yeah, that's a step beyond kind of what we've seen in the past. And there's all these really great moments, when Dipper kind of retreats into the woods and then the music stops for a second and then it builds back up and he runs back and he jumps onto the robot, or
That was crazy.
the explosion happens and it's quiet and you don't see anybody at first, and then the reveal of the grappling hook is such a big bombastic, there's all this fanfare to it that wouldn't be in something like the middle of the season, that feels like it's such a big payoff to everything that we've seen so far. Such a great reward for the audience and for the characters.
Yeah, I mean, everybody kind of upped their game for this episode, obviously, especially Brad Breek, our composer. And again, that's another moment by Alonso, the one where Dipper turns away and then runs and jumps on and leaps into the air to what should be his death. But luckily is his hero moment as he busts through the eye of the Gideon bot and all that. We're trying our best. We're trying to send you guys out on a high note so you can survive the desert of content that is on the other side of this episode until you get another season.
It kind of had the opposite effect as well. It kind of had two opposing effects. It was like, we have this great episode to leave off on that makes us like extra excited for the next season, but then like it's making us more excited for the next season. So the longer it goes without that season airing, the more we're like, we saw a bunch of stuff paid off in this one, but when are we going to see that thing in the basement paid off? When are any other characters going to find out about the vending machine? Like, we know now, but like eventually is someone else going to find out? Or like, I don't know, is something else going to come from Dipper's crush on Wendy, which Soos has obviously given away?
What? You're leaving town? But we need you here.
Yeah, especially Dipper because of his giant crush on... you. Eucalyptus trees. The kid loves eucalyptus trees. Saved it.
He thinks he saved it. He thinks
I don't think he did. I don't think he
tropes-
saved it.
He kind of thinks that sitcom tropes work that way in real life, but like in
He definitely
real life,
thinks he's in a sitcom. If anyone knows he's on a TV show, it's Soos.
yeah, but like in real life, you say that, and like the other person is they're going to know what you were actually gonna say. Like Wendy looks like she knows what Soos was gonna say and is just
Perhaps
commenting on it.
I mean, she's cool enough not to make
There's
Dipper
enough
feel worse
going on.
about it. There certainly is.
Yeah, she has enough on her plate to deal with freaking, what's his name? Running after.
Robbie.
Running after her.
How could you
Still
forget?
has not gotten over her. I don't think we've seen him since they broke up.
You know, that's television viewing. You know what I mean? Back in the day, you'd wait. You know, you wait. The season would end and you'd wait, but usually only wait a summer. You know, you knew your show was coming back in the fall. Before the age of streaming and being able to binge a whole series in one go, if you've waited to finish up, you had to wait for at least a week, if not months, and sometimes that's what you got. Now, a year, yes, most people wouldn't make you wait a year. So let me apologize to the teenage version of yourself that had to suffer.
I think the
year
is done. I mean, I think you guys made up for it with season 2, because without going into any detail about like what happens in season 2, I really love it. Like, I have a favorite episode of season 1, it's Land Before Swine. I don't think I have a favorite episode of season 2. It's kind of a cumulative effect for me. And so I'll be interested to see when we get to it, if watching it for this podcast, I can pick out an episode that's my absolute favorite, or if AJ has a similar experience where like it's kind of hard to pick one over the others.
Well, I mean, I don't think it blows anything to say that like the larger story really takes over at some point in season 2. And because of that, you don't separate the episodes in the same way, because you're getting chapters of the bigger events and how they're all going to come together and all that. I do have a favorite episode, but I won't talk about that because that would be maybe a bit of a spoiler. The Land Before Swine, obviously, that's one of my favorites as well. That was a big favorite of the cruise as well, because Stan gets to be in on the action, because of the emotional journey that he takes in that episode, where he basically neglects Waddles and then ends up saving Waddles, you know, because he loves Mabel so much. He has to love Waddles as well. That was a great episode. That was a key episode for us. That episode was the proving ground for this episode, which was we are going to care about Stan and the kids, and we are going to care when there's separation. We threaten the audience with their separation at the end of this episode, because we do care for Stan. We do love Stan, because Stan has shown us at this point that he loves the kids and does truly care for them. And a lot of that is in that episode.
Well, yeah, that's course, why it's my favorite, is I think that's such a sweet dynamic that they have, and really comes through in this episode as well, even right up to the end when we see what's behind the vending machine. Like, we see this whole big like lab with all these like blinking lights and this machinery, and it's very clear to the audience, like a prop, like it's not acknowledged, but it's right there. That's just a big framed picture of Dipper and Mabel that he keeps on that desk when he's doing whatever secret activity he's doing. And I think that is just so sweet that like he doesn't expect anyone to ever go down there or see that, but he just has it there for him.
Yeah, well, you know, and again, don't want to spoil anything, but what is Stan up to in the basement? That question is still active. Yeah, he's got some kind of giant machine, but what is that machine? What is he intending to do with it? We don't know.
So crazy. I saw the origin of another meme. I don't think we've had that in a while. Gravity Falls.
After all these years, finally, we have them all.
Yeah.
That did become a meme. There was actually some debate when this episode aired some people heard him saying, I have them all, and some people heard him saying, we have them all. So people were like, is he in some kind of group that's been looking for the journals? Is he part of some kind of secret?
No, they misheard.
Yeah. But I was like going back and listening, like, did he say we? Like, what was he talking about?
Like, is the Mystery Shack part of a mystery town or a mystery campsite?
He does say I, but yes, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, there's big stuff ahead. I look forward to hearing what you all think of it. I mean, how AJ reacts to it. We know you love it, Mary. We know that you love the show.
I have loved it. I came into this loving it, and it's such a big payoff to finally experience what was under the vending machine. I know it's, the hardest part of a mystery is figuring out how much you reveal to the audience, how much you clue them in. Mm-hmm. But I want to say I'm very thankful that you guys ended up cluing in as much as you did, because it just spins all this kind of intrigue in us. I'm sure it wasn't fun knowing that you maybe had to top this in the second season, but I know we as an audience definitely loved it. I know I loved it.
Well, I look forward to hearing. Now, do you know anything about second season? Have you read titles or anything like that? Or you were did you come to this completely innocent?
I saw the name of the second episode or the first episode of season 2 pop up on the Disney Plus link. Yoki.
That's all you know.
So that's all I know. I know nothing about what's going to happen. As I recall, I don't know any more Gravity Falls memes that may have originated in the second season, because the big thing about this podcast is that I knew who Bill Cipher was, but I did not know any of the context apart from that. So finally seeing that paid off last episode was kind of amazing to me.
Yeah,
did you know about Owl Trowel?
I did not know about Owl Trowel.
Then what did you do with those piles of owls constantly blocking your driveway?
Are you sick of piles of owls constantly blocking your driveway? Well, then you gotta get Owl Trowel!
There's no solution in real life for that problem, Mary. Someone should have invented Owl Trowel.
Owl repellent.
There's no real Owl Trowel.
Maybe just take a bed sheet, and just sort of go, shoo, shoo.
No, maybe. Are they alive? Are the owls alive? Aren't they dead? I assume the owls are dead.
Oh, I did not assume that. I thought they were all just hanging out.
They're just owl decoys?
You think live owls just decide to pile up in your driveway?
I don't know.
Why would they do
how do dead owls pile up in your driveway?
I mean, I was a Warrior Cats fan. I'd never read the Owls of Ga'Hoole. I don't know what they were.
Oh, they all die in the same spot and just drop down?
There's a great spot for an owl in a tree. What the owls don't know is there's also something poisonous on that branch that it seeps into the owls through their talons, and they die and they fall. And then the next owl comes along and sees this great spot for owls in a tree, and they suffer the same fate. And over time, these owls pile up. Now, if you're not ignoring the owls, you can get rid of them one at a time. But if you let enough pile up, then they're just too heavy to move.
That's really, really interesting.
Well, then you gotta get to the root of the problem. You have to get rid of whatever poison is in that tree.
Now, I just came up with all that. Now, you can understand why I might be able to work on a show like Gravity Falls.
You said it, now it's canon.
It is absolutely canon.
Okay, well, send it out there into the fans.
Rob Renzetti is the inventor of the Owl Trowel.
It made me so sad to see Waddles in this episode just being tormented by Gideon.
That is the worst part of the episode.
This is worse.
I have a question with that. Why didn't they take Waddles? Why?
I think Gideon maybe just didn't give them time to.
Yeah, I think they got bum rushed out of the Mystery Shack real quick at the end of that episode.
I think maybe Gideon didn't know about Waddles, so he was just there.
Waddles is a free form. He's a free roam pig. He doesn't necessarily have a pen, right? He's just hanging out. Sometimes he's probably very nearby Mabel. Sometimes she doesn't know where he's at.
That's interesting to me. With how big a role he plays in Mabel's life, I would have thought he would have had a pen by now. Maybe that's the wrong assumption on my part.
I would think
he just sleeps in the bed with her.
I would think he either sleeps in the bed or under the bed or somewhere near her most nights. But then he's maybe who knows where he might be on a daily basis. Who knows? Maybe he's out in the forest sometimes. I don't know. I don't think that Mabel would try and confine him. She'd think of him as like a free person with the ability to do whatever he needs to do, knowing that he's going to stay, he's going to come home eventually because he's, like some people let their cats outside because they know the cat's going to come back. My cats were always interior cats. We didn't do that with our cats, but I know some people do. So I think he's what you call free roam. He's a free roam pet pig.
He's a free range pig.
Free range pig. That's right.
I should not be thinking of him as pork right now. He's not delicious. he's not potentially delicious.
Predators and barbecuers. Going back to like Dipper jumping on the giant robot, you guys really did a great job making it seem very climactic and important and serious. These two small children punching each other. When ultimately, like if two kids are punching each other, there's no like epic music behind it. They're just kind of flailing and
Maybe
I literally
in their
wrote
minds
the
there
note, boys will be boys when that was all going on.
Well, it's
I mean,
very
that's
satisfying.
boys will be boys. Like, sexual harassment is not boys will be boys, but, like, two boys kind of flailing while trying to hit each other and not doing very well, that's boys will be boys.
I would say that's probably the most competent fight either one of them has had because they really have anger for each other. So,
yeah, and I think any other episode it would be played as a joke and it would be played in a more realistic way where they're not doing a great job. I think maybe that's even how it's played in Hand That Rocks the Mabel because there's like a scene where they're just kind of doing this at each other.
Yeah.
Kind of catfighting a little bit.
Yeah.
This town has a really weird bus schedule because it seems to be based on the position of the sun. Because Dipper says the bus to take us home is going to arrive at sundown. I'm like, why wouldn't you just say it's going to be here at like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever?
I don't know. I mean, again, Gravity Falls is a weird town.
It is a very weird town.
It may be that like you need certain creatures need to get out of town by sundown, like werewolves or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, so that's why they have a sundown bus.
There's so much that happened in this episode and so many
really trying to
great payoffs. Yeah, I'm like almost exhausted at this point.
I understand.
Well, I've got some stuff. So for one thing, Mabel's worried about where she's going to keep all her sweaters. I mean, today she could just open an Etsy shop and sell all those sweaters, and that could keep them afloat for like a couple weeks maybe while they figure out what to do.
Sell all her stuff on Depop.
Yep. So Stan is the devil.
That picture's taken out of context.
He also kisses Abuelita square on the mouth.
That's it! I know Gideon's weakness!
Would Mr. Pines like it? I go vacuum my face.
She does not.
Yeah, but she has the proper reaction. She is not excited by that. It's not the start of a great romance.
No thanks.
No. If the thing with Lazy Susan kind of collapsed, I'm not sure he had any chance with Abuelita.
He does not have luck with women. Well, I don't think he was trying to actually pursue her. I think that was just a reaction to him having this victory. I don't think he thought anything else of it.
No. But she could.
I think she did.
There might be some version of a sitcom where that would mean she would start falling in love with him because of that kiss that he didn't mean anything to him, but not in this case.
From the creators of Dharma and Greg, it's Abuelita and Soos. Or Abuelita and Stan.
No, not.
No. Oh, boy.
What effect does expired apple cider have on Stan that he wants to drink it when he's sad?
I mean, I think we can't reference alcohol. That's as simple as
I know
That's
that
exactly
in the real world,
that
but like in universe.
I mean, I would assume if it's expired somehow, it's transforming into something harder in some way. But maybe I don't know what expired apple. What is it? I don't know.
I haven't had the chance to try it out myself, even though we buy like apple cider all the time in the fall. So
and does it expire a lot? Do you have to throw it out a lot?
I think so, because they always come in the massive jugs, and we can never quite get through them. So maybe that's something to try this fall.
So one thing
I don't know if I'd recommend that. I wouldn't take recommendations.
We can do it live on the podcast. It'll make great content.
Live on the podcast.
Oh my.
One thing I want to touch on is at the end when Dipper finally shows him the journal, he keeps a very stone face. And of course, we know from the sort of tag at the end that he had the first journal the entire time. He knows about these journals. I think like as soon as we saw that in the moment, people were like, oh, so he's trying like really hard in the moment not to have an external reaction.
Yeah.
And in his head, he's probably like, oh my God, this kid had it the entire time. Like, this explains so much. And like, how did I not notice that? Like, oh my, just changing his entire worldview right now that like these kids found it somehow and they've been using it this entire summer. When he opens it, I just now thought of this now. He's probably opening right to the blueprint page, right? Because he like flips toward the middle.
I mean, he might be, but we don't see that though. We don't see what he flips to.
Yeah, but it would sort of make sense because Dipper flips to it himself, doesn't he? He finds the blueprint the page and has absolutely no idea what's going on there.
Well, I mean, Dipper's looked at every page in the journal several times. I mean, that's what he's probably doing tonight is just flipping through the journal almost every night before he goes to bed and trying to figure out the parts that he hasn't figured out yet.
I've stared at this page for hours. It seems like a blueprint to build some kind of strange, futuristic super weapon.
Boring!
I mean, you're glossing over the fact that he also gets journal number 2, and he just very, very expertly picks it up with the deed to the Mystery Shack and stays completely calm and cool through that as well.
That's,
you're
up until the point of this episode, he only has journal 1, and he gets journal 2 and journal 3 in quick succession. So he's got to be
had a very big
over
couple
the
of days.
moon. Over the moon right now. He can't believe his luck.
Yeah.
Well, and that sheds light on
is-
a lot of his behavior over the season, because like especially in an episode like Carpet Diem, if you really look at his facial expressions when he's kind of seeing how the kids are acting or like seeing all the stuff that's in that room, it's very clear that he's like trying to hide how he actually feels about whatever is going on, because the kids come into the kitchen and they've swapped with each other and they're acting weird, and he just stands up and walks out. He's like, I'm not dealing with this. So he might not know that they've switched bodies specifically, but he probably knows that something weird is happening because he knows that these weird things happen in Gravity Falls because he's had at least one of the journals at any given time. And then when he like rolls up the rug, he's like, so what do you want to do with this? His eyes are kind of darting back and forth, and Dipper's like, oh, get rid of it. He's like, oh yeah, great idea. And then like in Headhunters, when they say like, we fought your wax figures to the death, he's like,
You kids and your imaginations.
but he says it in such a way that I'm like, he wouldn't actually say that in earnest. Maybe he doesn't really believe them, but I think he knows something is going on that he just doesn't want to acknowledge. He's just like, okay, they're alive. That's fine. They're alive. I'll let it go.
Yeah, man, Mary, you bringing all this stuff up in quick succession. It's like I was probably looking in the wrong place all season long for all this continuity that Gravity Falls sort of established and is most known for. Because one of the things I pointed out is that all the episodes sort of felt traditionally self-contained, very standalone, like not much weaving in and through. And then you bring this up and it's like, oh my God, it was with Stan the whole time.
Generally speaking, the fans figured stuff out faster than any of us ever thought they would, like to an extent I really can't speak about because of AJ's status, but the audience was very, very sharp. Like whether at first the thought was like, are they going to see the stuff for Heidi? And the answer was, oh, they're going to see it, all right. They're going to see it in droves, and they're going to talk about it and endlessly discuss it and theorize it. So yeah, no, it's definitely there, but you're not meant to necessarily stop and take note of all of it. It's just kind of like woven into the fabric of the show, hopefully.
When you find out more and you go back, it all kind of comes together.
Yeah,
that's the idea.
Kind of
trying to discourage Dipper from believing in any of this, and then when he's confronted with like, oh, you're saying you fought a dinosaur but you don't believe in the supernatural, he's like, oh, well, they're not supernatural, they're
right, dinosaurs are real.
Those are real. That's we don't need to go into that.
I mean, that's how we justified to ourselves the idea that there was a rule in season 1 that Stan could never see the magic, but like that's how we justified that episode, was like, well, dinosaurs aren't magic. They were a thing that existed. The magic is that they're still alive. That's crazy, but like they're not mythical creatures. So that's why Stan is expressing our viewpoint there.
Well, it depends on who you
episode.
It depends on who you ask. Yeah, definitely.
I don't truck with people that don't believe in science.
Well, neither do I.
I love magic, but I believe in science. I believe in the scientific method. Not to get into the modern state of the world, but yes, there are a lot of people there who are nuts. And the internet has brought fans of great shows like Gravity Falls together, and it's also brought all the crazy people together. So they have other crazy people to validate their craziness.
Yeah, as I said earlier, you take the good with the bad, question mark?
Let's just not hope the bad doesn't overwhelm the good. It's a little bit touch and go right now. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
So Dipper definitely has a concussion, right? Because he felt like his head hit that rock very hard.
You're spoiling the Dipper in the hospital episode for season 2 that
oh, right.
AJ hasn't seen yet.
MRI.
Yeah, is that the first time we've seen blood on the show? Is this
episode? And we had to fight for that. We had to fight for him having a nosebleed. Standards and practices didn't like him bleeding. We argued, and Alex did the arguing. He did all the arguing with S&P, but he said, like, this makes it real. This makes it real that he
like I can acknowledge that, yeah, it's a nosebleed. I get those all the time, but yeah, it's a little hardcore, but it definitely makes it, as an adult viewer, I can definitely appreciate where that's coming from, that it makes it so real.
Well, and do they want kids jumping over cliffs thinking they're not going to get hurt and they're not going to bleed?
It doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense.
Yeah.
They're just, they're worried about one person making trouble for themselves who gets upset about something, so.
This is also the first time we've kind of seen creatures from previous episodes come back.
Yeah,
with
the gnomes was like the biggest callback for me.
And it's again taking us all the way back to the beginning, kind of reminding us how far we've come since the last time we saw them. But we're also getting more lore about them, which is, for one thing, they do not take squirrel baths. That is not normal for them because Jeff said that it is. He went out of his way to say that it is, so that means it's not.
Well, Jeff may have his own kink that's not shared by the rest of the gnomes.
We don't kink shame here.
I know, I'm just saying.
Except for him trying to marry a child. But again, he might not know that she's a child. He might have a skewed view of how aging and mental acuity works with humans. And also that Schmebulok can only say his own name.
Hey, Schmebulok, get my cologne!
Schmebulok.
Is Schmebulok all you can say?
Schmebulok.
And he's not happy about it. He's pretty sad about it.
Yeah. Wouldn't you be? I mean, I would be.
I asked Jason Ritter this as well, but I'm kind of interested to hear what someone who worked on it in like this production process would have to say about this. I asked him if there was a season 3 of Gravity Falls or some other project related to Gravity Falls coming out, would you want to be involved in that? Or are you kind of done with this outside of, the art book and talking about how it was back then? Like, would you want to come back and do more of this if the opportunity came up?
I mean, the answer to that question is it would depend on first, is Alex Hirsch involved? I don't know that I'd want to be involved in a version of Gravity Falls that didn't involve Alex Hirsch. And Alex says the story is done. So I believe him until he says different. He's done other stuff with Gravity Falls. Obviously, he's told other stories kind of on the side. But is there a season 3 that somehow happens after the events of season 2? Pitch me, Alex. Tell me what it is, and I'd be confident that he would come up with something that would be interesting and fun. And if he wanted me involved, then certainly I'd be interested in being involved in it. More so than if just Disney came to me and said, "Hey, we want to do a season 3 of Gravity Falls," because I'm sure they would love to do a season 3, 4, and 5. But so far, they've left it alone. Maybe hoping that they can lure Alex back to do something more on the project with them. So yeah, I mean, I love the characters, and if there was something interesting to do with them, I'd be interested in being a part of that. But I also believe in the idea that stories reach an end and they're done. And I don't think the desire of fans for constantly having more content is I sometimes feel like, well, they may want that, but it's not in their best interest. It's not in their best, like, think about how many things have come back, like how many revivals there have been, how few of them are satisfying. Because one, as a fan, you're in a different place. You're a different age, you're different, you're not in the same mental space you were when you were a fan of the show. And two, the people that made it aren't in the same mental space. So a lot of times you'll see like, well, it's 20 years later, and it's like, well, I understand why you're doing that because it is 20 years later for you, and you're a different person and you don't feel like you can write those characters the same way, but that's not going to satisfy the fans, I don't think. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing like where like you'll come up with a prequel, like where you fill in the endless minutia that's involved in any kind of show. Like, well, weren't you wondering where, I don't know, Willy Wonka got his top hat from? Well, maybe I was, but not really. And did you really need to go back and show me the origins of Willy Wonka? And like, no, I'm not even talking about the new film they did. I never saw that. I'm talking about the original Gene Wilder film that I grew up on. Like, I don't need another Willy Wonka movie. I love those characters. If you gave me another one, I would probably watch it, but I don't know that I really need it or if it would really scratch the itch that I'm feeling. I feel like what happens with a good show that you watch or a good movie or whatever is that you love it so much that it's like seeing someone that you love again. Like, my dad has passed away. I'm never going to see him again. I would love to see him again because I love him, but I wouldn't want him to come out of the ground as a zombie. That wouldn't be my dad. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of these revivals are like zombie versions of the thing that you loved coming back, and you're more likely to be horrified than you are to be pleased by it. So again, I'm not dead set against bringing things back. I would certainly be interested in a revival of Gravity Falls, but it's tough. It's a tough thing to pull off. Yeah. If anybody could do it, I think it would be Alex Hirsch because he's very smart and very talented, and he really knows these characters front to back. So I think I would have faith in him doing something good with it. But I'm always skeptical of any kind of revival. I feel, to speak more broadly about it, I feel like what we're missing in today's pop culture is new ideas. Like, I'm old enough to have watched Star Wars in the movie theater when it came out, and I loved it, and I loved the sequels. I didn't love the prequels. I don't love necessarily all the stuff they're doing, but God knows the world does not need more Star Wars. What the world needs is the next Star Wars. They need the next George Lucas, who nobody knows, who's got an idea that nobody else believes in, putting together a crew of the few people that believe in their vision and somehow tricking some corporation into making it, despite their better corporate instincts, which are really the worst corporate instincts, and making something new and original so that we have something new and original in the world. Of course, it's happening. Those things happen. But like the big money and the culture is so consumed with just all the stuff that's already existed because there's a built-in audience and they know they can get their money back.
Absolutely.
There's too much of that. We need new stuff in the world. We need new stuff all the time. And like, of course, there's no new story under the sun. We're all kind of just telling the same kind of story to ourselves. But the joy is the new version, the new face that those stories take on, the new combination of personalities, the new voice that some new creator gives to something that you haven't quite heard anything like that before. That's what Gravity Falls did when it came out. And of course, I love it. And if there was some new version of it, I would definitely be interested. But I'm more interested in what the new Gravity Falls is. What's the new 20-year-old thinking up that they are like just going to move hell and high water to get done in some form.
AJ asked that exact question in our last episode, like who in our generation is going to be the next Alex Hirsch.
It's really interesting to think about, and I'm not sure if we've seen that yet, but man, Rob, preach. Like, what you're saying, yeah, definitely. I can absolutely understand the safe betting with IP and all of that stuff, but it's definitely more fulfilling, I believe, to have these new ideas and to be able to foster them and give them an audience of people who never would have thought to experience something new. And I believe that we're all a little different. So somebody telling the same story that somebody's told, it's automatically going to be different, I feel, just because you've got that little perspective in you that nobody else is going to have. So
yeah, I mean, that's what I am interested in watching. That's what I'm interested in doing. That's why I'm trying to create new things still and stuff that people will enjoy in one form or another. Because it makes me happy. It makes me as a happy person, a creative person, to create new stuff. And hopefully it makes people happy to read it or watch it. That doesn't mean I wouldn't love to see more Gravity Falls. I probably would, and I probably would watch it. But I feel like the scale has tipped so far in the direction of endlessly recycling the stuff that's come before that we have to push the scale in the other direction and get more new stuff out there. It's just so tough. It's tough to do now because the audience is so splintered and fractured, and it's hard for something to take off in the same way that Gravity Falls did. So we'll see.
We'll definitely
There's always something new under the sun.
Rob's answer to that question is definitely kind of how I feel. When Matthew Perry died, I saw people saying like, oh, they should bring back Friends and have them deal with Chandler's death. I'm like, no, they shouldn't.
Yeah.
Because that's the beauty of it, is because that story ended, Matthew Perry
and that
in real
they're
life,
friends forever.
Yeah,
beyond what we see of that.
He has passed, but that doesn't mean that the fictional character Chandler Bing has to be killed off. And we saw it recently with Tom Kane passing away. There is, this is always going to happen when an artist or a voice actor passes away, someone involved with cartoons. You're gonna have fan art of those characters reacting to it as if that character died or as if their creation died. But like Professor Utonium isn't really dead. His characters are not.
Yeah. He never really lived.
We don't have to reckon with that.
He's a fictional character.
Yeah.
And what's nice is that those can live on past what we humans have created. That's
right.
Absolutely.
Someone can fall in love with Sherlock Holmes, next week, having never encountered that fictional character before. And that character will be just as alive to them as the people that were reading it back when those stories came out. That's the beautiful part of fiction. And the most beautiful part of what I've been lucky enough to be involved in is like helping create characters that hopefully stand the test of time and that people are interested in discovering again. Like you guys are, like AJ's discovering Gravity Falls many, many, many years after it was on the air. I mean, it thrills me to no end that the things that I've been involved with, that they are making new fans, whether it's one new fan, 100 new fans, 1,000 new fans, whatever it is. That's a joy for me that I didn't anticipate when I was starting out in this business, that things I'd be involved with and helped create would still be garnering attention.
Yeah, I think we can start to wrap up here, but I want to ask AJ, any final thoughts on the season as a whole? And was this ending to the season satisfying for you? And also, like, where do you want to see it go next?
Well, it was definitely very satisfying. I'd take the previous episode and this one as a package deal, like a great way to wrap up the first season, great way to sort of call back to everything that's played a part, whether minor or major. And I'm really intrigued now that the vending machine mystery has been solved, where that's gonna go, because there's like 1,000 little different things that, you guys showed so much, and there's like 1,000 little theories that are connected with each piece that went into whatever Stan is summoning at the very end of the episode. So I'm very excited to see how that goes. I have faith that it's not going to jump the shark, because there was definitely a lot in this episode that was very big and definitely set a precedent. But I'm super stoked, and I hope it doesn't take as long as we've taken before and as the show has taken before. So very excited to just get the ball rolling further.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited for you to see season 2, so I definitely don't want it to be the same kind of process that we had for season 1, where it was very, very staggered, which, so was the show, but not as much as us.
Well, didn't you guys just record Jason Ritter a short while ago?
2 weeks ago, but that is not the norm for us. Like, before that, it was a year and a half.
Well, make it the new norm.
Yeah.
Make it the new norm.
We're going to try. We're trying to do that, yeah.
We're going to take 5 years of experience, and we're going to learn. I'm
going to send you guys a schedule. You'll have to stick to it religiously. Just like we did on Gravity Falls, obviously. Never went too long trying to get something done.
Yeah. Rob Renzetti is now our super adult Pro Max.
Yeah.
I wish I could fulfill that role for you, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to let you go on your own and flail as you will. But
yeah. And,
whenever you come together, I'm sure it'll be worthwhile.
Do you want to plug anything before we
I mean, I will plug the Horrible Bag series. There's a trilogy that I wrote. You can check out, I have a website, robrenzetti.com. You can go there to find out more about that. It's available at all major booksellers. That's my latest creative project. If you're a fan of Teenage Robot, I actually did a news story of Teenage Robot through my newsletter. You can also sign up for my newsletter at robrenzetti.com. So yeah, those are the two things. And of course, there's the Art of Gravity Falls book coming out this year, which obviously all the Gravity Falls fans I think will be intrigued to get. So there's that as well. So yeah, my writing projects are what I'm kind of concentrating on. But of course, I'm the more the Horrible Bag series sells, the better for me. And I think it's geared towards middle graders. It's meant to be a middle grade book, but it really is like Gravity Falls. I think it's for fans of all ages. If you like spooky, weird, creepy stuff combined with a black sense of humor, like Gravity Falls, then I think you'll enjoy quite a bit, because it's very much a part and parcel of the same kind of thing. And I'm very proud of it. I'm very excited having written it, and I want as many people as possible to read it. So yeah.
Before we sign off here, we do need to read the codes.
Oh yeah, I forgot it this time.
You forgot.
Yeah.
I'm usually the one who forgets. So there's a few here. So when they open to the page for the squash with a human face and emotions, there is a cryptogram that once decoded reads, "Don't eat him."
I mean, I would never.
Oh, right after Dipper, Mabel, and Soos run out of the room, I believe that's the attic. ELOOLVZDWFKLQJ is seen carved into a pipe under the floorboards. Once decoded, it says Bill is watching.
Uh-oh.
The left-hand corner of Journal 3's page, the blueprints for the whatever that weapon, that device was in the basement. It's another cryptogram that's just like shapes, not letters or numbers. And once decoded, it says, "The portal, when completed, will open a gateway to infinite new worlds and herald a new era in mankind's understanding of the universe. Plus, it will probably get girls to start talking to me finally."
I mean, we saw a little bit of that hinted when Gideon was doing his big villain explanation speech. Mm-hmm. We saw the stars and all that stuff.
So the credits tag, again, just images, wasn't like another scene happening. It was images of the journal. There's a page that says possible hiding places, and there's a code there that says 18, 5, 22, 5, 18, 19, 28, 5, 3, 9, 16, 8, 5, 18, 19. Once decoded, reads reverse the ciphers. Mm-hmm. And then the end credits tag that's been in all of these is 5, 19, 23, 6, 21, 16, 18, 9, 6, 4, 16, 19, 22, 12, 15,
I could harbor
10,
a guess.
19, 25, 19. What do you think it says?
Gravity Falls will return?
No, it says search for the blind eye.
The blind eye.
Yes. Blind eye is one word for some reason.
The blind eye. I'm sure Rob probably can't reveal anything, but
All I can say is it was something else to keep the audience going while we were on break.
And it did.
Well, thanks so much for including me on your journey here. I wish you good luck with season 2.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for doing this.
I'm happy to talk Gravity Falls whenever you want. If you want me back for something in season 2, I'm happy to come back again. But otherwise, I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, you were
For sure.
fantastic. Thank you so much. We'll let
You're
you
very
go.
welcome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Gravity Falls will return to Into the Falls. Until then, follow the show on Twitter and Bluesky at The Falls Cast, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and send your feedback or ramblings to intothefallscast@gmail.com. I'm also on Tumblr, YouTube, Bluesky, and Archive of Our Own at UncaAJ, UNCAAJ.
You can find me on Twitter, Bluesky, and Instagram at Mabel Page Pines. That's Mabel Page Pines. You can also find me on TikTok at SpaceFem129. Into the Falls is produced and edited by Mary McKeon and AJ Sanchez. Our theme and some music is by Kevin MacLeod. Thanks for listening, and until next time, trust no one!
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Mary can reveal that to you however she sees fit.
Yeah, it'll certainly be weighing on my mind.
You're really enjoying
the
power position you have in this broadcast, podcast, aren't you, Mary?
Oh, yeah.
Being the
It's
all-knowing
Boss Mabel here.
overlord is a real joy. I can imagine. I think I'd feel the same way. I'd love to torture one of my friends with something I know everything about and they know nothing about.
Yeah.
Well, I was grinning very widely this episode and the last one because I'm like, AJ's about to see that for the first time.
Yeah.
He's going to be pissed off.